And coming back in here to our call today, what some of the things I wanted to share with you guys was really based upon something that has been part and parcel for what we come into in our work here as real estate investors. As you guys know, I've restarted the Royal Life coaching group. I see a couple of those members are actually here, and inside of that group, what we're focusing on right now so far there is really studying into the blue book that is with some of that free training that's there inside of the vault. So, and that training has to do a lot about execution and some of the nuances that come with execution and controlling state of being. Now zooming out to that's at the very, very bottom of the most pointed. If you want to look at like a funnel of what's there, like it's at the very, very bottom. Here, like looking at the very top of the way that I see things from 10,000 feet up, and that I wanted to share with you guys here today. It's about like much more of how do we put all of these things together. So I don't know if you guys have seen this over and over again, but what always seems to come apparent for me is about what are the different levels in which we experience the different types of challenges in life. And what seems to be the case is that at each new problem that I solve, what seems to happen is that then I start to just experience a new level of complexity, which comes into a new problem. So I'm starting to think that this game of life that we play as investors and business people is actually, in many ways, it has many levels to the complexity, and that the better that we can understand how all of the puzzle pieces fit together, the faster and easier and better life gets with our businesses and our investing and everything. Just be another part of like what makes up life. So to take this as an example, first is that I'd ask everybody to like just reflect for a moment. Reflect for a moment about what is the challenge that you have right now? The top of mind challenge that you have right now. So who here would think, well, Scott, the top of mind challenge I'm having right now is obvious. It's I need to get better at my investing or my business. Top of mind challenge. If I had that thing solved, the story you would tell yourself is if I had that thing solved, then my life is going to be better and easier. Is that fair to say? Yeah? I see Julie nodding. Okay. So let's take it one step down. What about if you didn't have food? Then what would you say is your problem? Would you say is my problem investing in my business? Or would you say that my problem is I need to eat? Say, well, I need to eat. Okay, great. Well, here's some fish and some vegetables. I fed you. And you say, oh, cool. Well, I always have fish and vegetables here? Probably. You can probably come here every day and I'll probably always have fish and vegetables for you. And now what's your problem? Oh, well, now my problem's back to learning how to invest because now I ate. This is not a great analogy. I'm giving you that, right? I feel like, Scott, this is not a great analogy here that you're giving us about how it works. But do you see what I'm driving at? It's that if you go back down to the fundamental levels of what's really going on with you, that this is why you never feel okay. This is why you always feel like there's some type of struggle or problem. Because it actually doesn't matter what problem gets solved. You will then shift to another problem. This is not like a throw your hands up in the air kind of thing and just be like, oh my God, well then what's the point of all of this and have an existential crisis, right? That's not what I'm trying to get at. But but the point is that I'm trying to make is to say, well, let's just look at what reality is then. Because if the real reality, based upon your own experience in life, is that what I'm doing is I'm solving a problem at one level, and then after I solve that problem, all that happens is that problem goes away. I have a new piece of energetic space, mental space, and then I'm tackling another problem of complexity. I solve the basic problem, the simple to understand problem of I'm hungry, I need fish, I got to eat. Very easy to understand, in the box kind of problem. Once that problem went away, then what happened? Well, now my mental space opened up. And what did my mind do? It got pulled to another problem, which was, now that I can eat, now I'm going to think about like my business. I'm going to go to a different level of complexity of whatever it is I want to create in life. This isn't a bad thing. This is just the nature of things. And the reason that I offer it to you is because I'd like you to be able to work and to be able to have focus and working on the problem, whatever the thing is that you decide the thing is that you're spending your time focusing on, without feeling like it's a problem, like that there's anything there that's wrong. Because the feeling of that something is wrong here, or that there's something to be afraid of if we don't figure it out, is simply not true. Because you can eat, and you have clothes, and you have shelter. And everything after that are just different levels of complexity of the problems. You personally are not in threat. I know it doesn't feel that way, right? Yet. But it's possible to be able to separate yourself and how you feel, that you can feel okay about what's going on and separate out the problems that you're working on as two different experiences. And why is it important to do that? It's important to do that because you're actually getting in your own way. When you start to gunk up your brain with a bunch of feelings of fear, anxiety, all of this stuff, what is actually happening is that you're interfering with your computer. Your computer is doing exactly what your computer should do. This is your intellect. It's over there processing data. All these data pieces that you keep putting in front of it. But the moment that you start feeling that things are not okay, and then I'm afraid, or I'm anxious, which is just another word for fear, or I have this feeling that I'm confused, and now I'm anxious that I'm confused, then pretty soon what all you've done is to be able to take this thing called your intellect and you've gunked it up with a bunch of emotions. And so the way that I know how to keep that from happening is to focus on the first thing that I showed you today, which was focus back to the basics. Focus back to the basics. Is it really true that I'm not okay? Is it really true that there's anything to be afraid of? Is it really true that there's actually a threat here? Or is what's happening really is that I've actually, all of the base needs that I need to actually be okay are actually fine. However, my mind is taking me to a new problem. And because my mind is taking me to a new problem, which it is always taking me to a new problem, the experience that I have when I'm encountering the new problem is confusion, fear, anxiety, and all of these other things. Okay, who's with me so far? Anybody want to reflect on that? Who would like to share a little bit about what resonated? Julie, would you please share with us, and hopefully some other people will share with us, just to check in with each other as a group about what's resonating so far with this kind of thing. Or not resonating is fine too.
Yes, Scott, I totally get it. You are talking about emotion interferes how we think, how our brain works. And if you are looking at the stuff in front of you as a problem, then you're stressed. You're like, why do I always have to deal with all kinds of problems, right? One after another. However, if you try to steer your emotion to be a positive one, then you are looking at, this is not a problem. This is an opportunity for me to fix this thing, and I can grow, I can be better. I do not hope things are easy, but I hope I'm better. So it's a way that I practice and I get better. And I remember listening to Chris Voss talking about the difference between Reagan and Trump, because they're both very stiff, and they're like, they want to certain things done. But Reagan always put a smile. And then he said with a smile, but Trump is like, you are fired. And then people get upset. So I think, yes, our emotions will get in the way. However, if you put a positive emotion, you put a smile on your face, and you treat your problems and as challenges, as opportunities, I think your day will go by happier. That's my thought.
Excellent. Julie, thanks for the share. Is anybody else like to share and reflect about anything that we were sharing so far is either resonating or not resonating? Diego, I saw you on mic. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, sure. I can say that one thing that I always think about is that the problem is never the problem, but how I react to it is the problem. So that's kind of how I always think about that. It's just, if I let my emotions get in the way, that's really going to, trigger that survival mechanism in my head and, doomsday scenario. But, it's I always think about, in the context of, it's how I react to whatever situation it is, right? That could be a problem. So that's just a mantra that I just kind of keep for myself.
I was going to ask you this, Diego. Have you ever come into a situation in life that getting really anxious or feeling a bunch of ways about it was actually helpful?
No. I mean, that's yeah. So I've come to situations where, there's nowhere where, having a lot of anxiety or nervousness about something project, unknown of what's going to happen, that's been helpful. It's always kind of cool heads will prevail. And, that's also something that I always put on myself, right? Like let's just sometimes even taking a step back. I tend to try to get in things really quickly, but, sometimes taking a step back and just kind of let's just apply that Chinese wu-hei sort of mentality of like, things will be the way they are, and kind of the art of doing nothing for, a little bit always helps.
Cool. Very cool. Thanks, Diego. Anybody else like to share about what's either resonating or not resonating for what we shared so far? You can, Benjamin, I think I saw you raise your hand.
Okay. Yeah, so Scott, I think the thing I took away from that is how much time do I spend focusing on my problems versus focusing on, I guess the opposite, which is gratitude, right? Is the things I'm thankful for. So yeah, that was a good thought.
Yeah, man, I want to there's something I want to share about that, but I just need a second for it to bubble up. So I'm going to take this one step further for you guys, right? Let's look. So a lot of people will tell me, say, hey, Scott, what, all this life coaching stuff, this execution stuff, like whatever, all of these coaching programs that are out there, they're all garbage. I've taken them all, then none of them really work. How is it what you're going to do is going to teach me anything that's different, right? And so I'm trying to to teach that right now, so you can get an actual experience of what this is like, right? Because the way that you can know things are different is not because somebody's telling you something and asking you to adopt a belief. The only way for you to know that anything is different in your life is for you to examine it based upon your own life experience. So I'll constantly be trying to do my best to be asking you about experiences inside of your own life and then to reflect on them. And to the extent that that doesn't resonate with you, or that's an uncommon life experience, then that's what I'll ask everybody's support and being able to flag what those are. So if we take, for example, this experience that we have in life, yeah. One of the experiences that we heard Benjamin and some of the people here talking about was about having like a positive mental outlook, right? Gratitude. Where can that be important for us? And we might ask ourselves like, well, that's a good mantra, right? That's a top 10 list that I've seen on Instagram that have good things that are to do. But let's take a really deep look at like what is really going on. The way I see it, that life and the decisions that I make that form whatever my life is can only really exist inside of a single moment. Is it common to all of our life experience here that there is nothing that's really real that we can know besides the exact moment that we're in? That is in this moment that we have the best information about what will happen in the next moment. And it's only in this moment that I can have any type of idea of what decision I'm going to make with an intention to influence whatever the next moment is. So from that scenario, it's sure I can have a bunch of big plans, but my ability to act and my effectiveness of acting is actually localized to this frame of reference and to this one moment in time. And this moment in time is always going to give me another moment in time. So when we talk about being able to remove the emotion that clouds our thinking, the fear, anxiety, the feeling of things that are not okay, exactly as they are right now. My experience is that this is not a Jedi mind trick to say like, oh, I should do this because of some highfalutin reason of it's peace, love, and happiness in the universe. Sure, that may happen, but let's get practical. And the practicality of it, if I'm working with an intention that something is going to be different, I'm going to be influencing something in the world, in this universe, then the only moment that I can influence is inside of this moment. And inside of this moment, the best place from which that I can have the best information that's not clouded by my emotions is inside of this moment, and it's with a state of being and a state of mind where it's not getting interfered with by a bunch of fear and anxiety and a bunch of this other stuff. So do you guys see that? That's why whatever you're doing with gratitude or meditation or breathing is practical? That's where it really matters? That's where it pays you dollars? I mean, let's leave to the side any of the other psychological benefits that you should do this because you want to be happy or whatever. I mean, let's talk about money. Talk about being more effective in business, creating more of what you want in the world. Are you with me on that? Does that resonate with you? That this might be why it's so important? Anybody like to share on that? Whether that resonates or doesn't resonate, or it's confusing, seems clear. How does that sit? It's hard for me to tell how everybody's at because we don't have everybody on camera today. There's Chris.
Hey, Scott, good to see you.
Good to see you, Chris.
Look, Oh, you can hear me too. Okay. I'm in a different environment today. I'm in Hawaii. So it's 3 hours earlier. It's just before 7 o'clock, but or just after right now. I haven't had my cup of coffee, so I want to apologize. I'm really focusing on a positive attitude without that cup of coffee, but it's working. No, it really resonates with me. And whether you're talking from money point of view, or you're talking about just living your life, your friendships, your loved ones, all of life, so much of your attitude and the way you're depicted and the way you feel about yourself. And probably one of the most important things to me is my health. I mean, I'm a person because I can focus on the positive aspects of everything in my life. And I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound maybe a little bit weird, but whenever you watch a movie or you read a good book, there's often a hero and an anti-hero, and the antagonist. And very often a hero is only as good as the anti-hero, as the antagonist, because it's the only way you can really see, what the adventure is, what the problem is, how it is overcome. And I feel very often, life is like that too, is that if everything was just absolutely perfect, you would not be happy, because you would have nothing to push it up against to see what is there a reason to be happy. I don't know if I can really explain it any better than that, but it just makes me realize that those challenges are just something else to put up against your happiness, and overcoming those challenges adds to your happiness. And quite frankly, life isn't all about just being happy. It's about living life, and part of that is those challenges, and those challenges can be fun. I mean, there's a reason some of us like to go climb mountains. Let me tell you, a lot of times when I'm climbing mountains and I got a pack on and I'm a few days in and I'm, not eating my favorite foods, at that particular moment, I'm happy, but I'm also struggling too. It's my wife just brought me a cup of coffee, so somebody knows how to bring me happiness. So I'm starting to feel like I'm rambling a little bit here, but there's different ways to approach that happiness or to think about it. And I'm just end it off with, there are some mornings I wake up and maybe I've got a lot of things on my mind and maybe they're not all positive, but I also remember that if there's one thing that really differentiates us from, other animals in the animal kingdom, is our ability to go beyond our programming, our ability to focus on making life better for ourselves mentally. And even if you have to cheat just a little bit in the beginning and just force yourself to be in that positive mood, and force yourself to focus on those things that are positive, eventually, I in my belief, you can get beyond your programming.
Cool. I love that, Chris. It's the my mountain climbing experience. I had to watch out for in the group, inside myself and the group, because I was climbing up Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and we got a late start in the season, and because we got such a late start, it actually meant that it was snow covered. So then all the snow was on the ground, but we had only spring gear. If you guys know anything about like mountain climbing, what that means is we had no micro spikes, which meant there's no traction on the ice while we're climbing up. I mean, our poles didn't have the fetters at the end of it, so our poles would just go straight through to the snow, and we couldn't get to the rock that's down there. So it really meant that it was twice as hard to climb an ultra high peak, which is already a really hard climb anyway, after I'd already been climbing for 7 days in Africa to be able to even get to base camp. So the meant was the day that was like, I was 2/3 of the way up that mountain. I'm falling over. I'm so tired. I literally can't even keep my balance. I can't even use the restroom without like almost falling over while trying to just use the restroom. I can't eat. So exhausted and so tired from the food in here. Take food in. And the way that we made that the rest of that climb was because we huddled together, 3 of us and a guide, while a whiteout was blazing through. We couldn't even really see the trail. Come to find out, the guide told us that we actually got a little bit lost, but he didn't want us to freak out. And we marched it together. We take 10 steps. Each step was barely 1 foot in front of the other, like barely 1 foot. I'm talking about moving. We're moving 6 to 8 inches at a time here with each step. And we're taking 10 steps, then 10 breaths. And then we take another 10 steps and 10 breaths. And then somebody in the group would take turns just saying something that was like positive, encouraging, because it's like in those moments in the struggle of what was going on, in the moments that everybody wants to quit, we're like, nope, we got to summit. It's like in those moments is where we got into the routine and the practice of we're going to keep moving and we're going to do this thing called, I'm going to do a practice together. We had a group, but we're going to do a practice that's going to help keep our mind focused, or keep our mind focused in a way that's going to be useful for us, so that way we can execute the way that we need to. Because the moment that negativity, the moment that doubt would have been able to come in, then we would have fallen apart and been down the mountain and had to, and we would have turned around. We wouldn't have made it to the top. And that's how simple it is. But that's what we're talking about like here today, right? That you're on this mountain that you're climbing, but there's actually just one step you have to take in any given moment. You're just taking one step. And the question becomes, is your mind in that moment going to allow you to take that step, or is it going to break? And the moment that you break, you lost. You're going back down the mountain. But that's all you have to do to be able to accomplish any of the other things that you're thinking about you want to accomplish and you're investing in your life. That's it. It all comes down to that one step at a time, one moment at a time. And if you can keep a clear head, you can just keep marching. So then the question becomes, well, how do you keep a clear head, right? Because maybe everybody's at a different level of a skill on that. So I'm going to teach you guys. I'm going to teach you guys a skill here that I'm actually teaching tomorrow night, or tomorrow midday with the Royal Life Group. This is the most effective skill I found, and it actually is. I used to do what Chris would do, which was kind of cajole myself into a positive feeling. You guys have done that. You heard this. You guys have all experienced with this, right? And I think we all have, right? And I'm not picking on you, Chris, or saying anything you're doing is wrong. It's beautiful. I'm sure if it's working for you, please don't take it that way. And I'm just meaning this with like the sport of it, is that we've all been to that place. And some of us that have heard these positive thinking gurus out there, right? They're like, you just gotta like hype yourself into positivity somehow, or Jedi mind trick yourself into being in a positive state, and that's how you're going to get there. And once you're there, you're going to go conquer the world. And like, this is like Tony Robbins, like spitting from the stage, right? About like, you just got to get into some crazy frenzy of like a positivity, and then all of a sudden and then then you combine that with Eckhart Tolle or one of these other guys that says, well, then it's the secret. And then you're going to take all that positivity, and then you're going to visualize whatever you want to do, and then you're going to channel all your energy to it, and then all of a sudden it's going to work like the secret, that it magnetically attracts it to you. And I think a lot of us that were there were just like, what the hell are you guys talking about? How could you possibly know any of that's true? I'm not saying that it is true or it isn't. That might be your belief system. That's fine. But to that extent, it goes a little bit beyond what I can know for sure, right, is there. But here's something I do know for sure. I do know for sure, and it's true in my life experience anyway, is that all my decisions come down to what decision I'm making there in the moment. That if I can make that decision from a place of emotional placidity, calmness, stillness, without fear, without anxiety, without even a desire for that I want it to happen, but just from a place that that's what I'm deciding in this moment, then I know my emotions aren't coloring me one way or the other. That the desire for it to happen will lead me to optimism, and in optimism, I will ignore parts of the facts of the situation that are there, and it'll lead me to a less than ideal decision. And if I'm angry or feel anxious, then it's going to lead me to the other place. Right? It's going to cloud equally the same way. It's going to cloud some of the information, keep me from making an ideal decision. So how in the world can you get to a place that is the ideal place from which to take that next step? How can you get to a place that is the ideal place from which to take that next step, to make that next decision or do that next thing? And this is something I'm going to tell you guys about here that nobody has ever taught you before. Nobody else is teaching this at all. This is a Scott Royal Smith original, and we're dropping the mic on it here today. And if you're in the Royal Life group, you're going to get this even in more detail tomorrow, midday during our meeting. And catch the recording in the vault if you're not going to make it. This is all you have to do. And you're going to hear this and you're going to say, is it really this simple? This is all I got to do? So yeah, this is all you have to do. And it's the most simple thing in the world. So here it is. Your life experiences, if it's like mine, that a decision comes up. If I'm aware and watching myself when the decision comes up, I can start to see whether I feel a certain way about it. Yeah? Everybody with me on that? You either feel negative about it, you feel positive about it, you get wrapped up in some type of emotional thing about whatever way you happen to feel about whatever the thing is. Yeah? Everybody with me on that? That's true, right? If we can become aware of it, that that's actually what's happening, here's all you got to do. Stop. Stop whatever you're doing. Eventually, you won't have to stop. But if you want to practice this, just stop what you're doing. And in that moment, what I want you to do is I want you to just sit, if you can, get to a place by yourself, sit, close your eyes, pull whatever that decision or whatever that thing is to the very front of your mind. And then inhale for 5 counts, hold it, exhale for 5 counts, hold. Inhale for 5, hold, exhale for 5, hold. So quickly, if you're taking notes, which I recommend you take the notes and you try this out. I don't think tomorrow during the Royal Life coaching class, we're going to have time to demo this to actually give like an experience of it. But here's why this works, right? Here's why this works. The reason why it works is because it's the only thing that's real. What's real is your mind now becomes fixated on something. You then have emotionally attached to whatever that thing is. When you stop whatever you're doing and sit and focus on whatever that thing is, whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter. The point here is we're trying to get to a place of placidity, of neutrality. When you stop and you hold it in the front of your mind, you will continue to experience the emotion because it's actually just a trigger. It's not real. It's just the way you are responding to a stimulus. It's just your thought. And now it has this stimulus called your emotion, which is a stimulus of your sympathetic nervous system. That's the part of your body physiologically that regulates your emotion. And the way you can deprogram your sympathetic nervous system is through the breathing. That type of breathing that I showed you is called box breathing. 5 counts in, hold, exhale for 5, hold at 5. That's what the Navy SEALs use when they do this practice before they go into battle to go kill people. Because can you imagine how much emotion runs through you before you're about to go kill people? I've never had to do that, but I imagine it's really freaking intense. And that your best, and what they figured out is your best ability to go out there and get into a fight and go kill people is if you can be calm. And if they can get calm doing that, to calm down whatever's going on inside of them emotionally by that practice, I'm pretty sure I can do that before I go for my morning run that I don't want to go to, or go into that meeting with that person that I don't like, or get neutral with the fact that that person cut me off in their car, or whatever the case may be. Whatever those things are in life that are throwing me off, that are making it where in the next moments of my life, I'm having all of these emotions, which are clouding my ability to make good decisions and otherwise enjoy life. So when I told you guys that I was zooming out to 10,000 feet up, this is what I'm talking about. This is it. This is the thing. This is the thing that if you do this in all things, where you can come to a place of neutrality with whatever you're doing, the people you're interacting with, the decisions you're making in your business, the way you're going to handle that meeting, the conversation that you're about to do, the way you're driving your car. If you can just watch yourself before you do anything and be able to say, great, what emotions are coming up for me here? Great, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to relax. I'm going to release. I'm going to do the breathing. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to sit down. You can just focus on the breathing. The 5 counts in, hold it for 5, 5 counts out, hold it for 5, and just release, relax, relax. You're going to deprogram your sympathetic nervous system. And what'll happen is you're going to smooth out your emotions. And when you smooth out your emotions, your thinking will get better. And your thinking will also improve for longer because you're not going to be burning all of this energy inside of your brain, chugging around like a hamster wheel with all of these emotions and all of this crazy thinking that's going on all the time. This whole vortex that's spinning around in your head all day about all the things that you got to do and all the things you're worried about. And what if this happens? And what if that happens? And if this person says this to me, then I have to say this and blah, 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 blah. Those are all just things that are stimulus that when you think about them, they cause an emotion. When they cause the emotion, you just have to deprogram the emotion. When you get really good at deprogramming the emotion, you become a superhuman. You become the most powerful person you've ever met. Because your thinking is clearer, you can think for longer, and that your emotions are more still. So you can handle anything that life throws at you. And when you do this, your business will improve, your leadership will improve, your investing will improve, your family will improve, driving your car will improve, your food will start to improve because you'll be cooking better, sex will improve. Got a couple of people's attention on that. Everything will get better because you're going to be more inside of what is the present moment. And that's how you get to the present, is by realizing this thing came up, it's hijacked my thinking. I'm going to do the breathing to get back to neutral. And inside of the neutral, I can now be present and I can actually experience what's real in life in front of me instead of all of the junk that's flying around in my head right now. So we're going to be teaching on that tomorrow, midday at Royal Life. If anybody here inside of this group or inside of the recording is interested in joining us, we do Monday evenings on the second and fourth Mondays in the evenings, and the first and third Thursdays midday. So there's always opportunities for being able to join in on those groups, getting our schedule, and there's also the recordings of those that are exclusively available to the Royal Life members that are looking about how to execute, become more effective in their execution, and to be able to practice more of these skills, learning from me about what's the effective way to be able to control your thinking, control your mind, control your emotions, control your ability to act, control your response mechanisms in ways that are very scientific, practical, and specific. No woo-woo into it, just like today. No woo-woo today, right? All just, here's how it is. Now, you might not know how to do all of it yet, and that's okay. This stuff takes training. It took me years to be able to get the nuances of it, but that's okay. If this resonates with you and aligns with you, that's the kind of stuff that I'm teaching on.